New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, dear ones. Rev Robert over here.
Rev Z right here.
And we're a couple of ministers talking shit. Happens every Friday morning here on the New Thought Media Network. And we're very, very grateful to have you with us. First update. By next week, the hat's gone, folks. This is it. End of the month. Only the month of December. So I only got today and tomorrow left to wear the Sacred Santa hat. Enjoy it while it's out there.
Yes.
How was your holiday?
Oh, good morning. Good morning. It was very good. And for all of those who celebrate Kwanzaa, Habaragani, the principle for today is Nia, which is purpose. And the idea behind it is to restore the African people to their traditional greatness, to be responsible to those who came before our ancestors, that is, and to those who will follow us, our descendants. So, happy Kwanzaa to everyone, and Merry Christmas to those who have already got the gifts and ate the cake and all the things that happen. And turkey, I still got plenty of turkey. I'm going to freeze some of it today because it won't be eaten before it's all over. So all is well.
Exactly. And all those that have done their holiday workout shoveling snow, kudos to you as well. We had a good foot here on that storm yesterday. So spent a couple hours yesterday with a good foot of snow in my shovel. Happy holidays to all the snow shovelers out there across the country. Unless you're in Buffalo, and then if you're in Buffalo, our prayers are with you.
Oh my God.
Man, they got wallowed. That's the lake effect. That's what happens when you live on the west side of a lake like that. So
yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, a few people have lost their life through that storm. They got like 50 inches, of snow in Buffalo, which our heart goes out to everybody. You don't want those kind of things to happen at all, and you definitely don't want them to happen during the holidays. So,
yes,
our prayers go with them.
Exactly. Good morning, Linda. Grateful that you are with us. Thank you for being here, being a part of the New Thought Media Network.
And one thing, about that storm is Southwest took it on the chin, as they say, with all of the flights that were canceled and all of that. I mean, unbelievable.
Southwest is going to continue to take it on the chin from what I hear about this one too, because it impacted everywhere and impacted the entire country. And it's going to take a while for that one to get cleaned up.
Yeah. And because I think over the holiday season, I think they canceled I don't know, had to be 5,000 or 6,000 flights, because I know one day it was like 2,300 flights in a day at some point.
Yeah. Cascading failures fail spectacularly, if you will, in a lot of ways. Speaking of cascading failures, today's big news in Donald Trump's world, the House Select Committee is going to release his taxes today. 6 years worth of tax returns get released today. Now, a lot of people in the country have been asking for this for years now. Here it is. And, honestly, I don't think we're going to see anything surprising. Well, we're going to see things that are surprising to some. But I think the overall arc of the story will not be all that surprising. How do you feel about it, Z?
I suspect there will be some. I'll say firecrackers or cherry bombs. I won't see there be any real big blow-ups, because obviously there's something that he didn't want people to see, because he's fought so hard not to show it. Right. But I think what's going to show the most is how crafty he's been in moving money and how he's reported revenue and expenses, which is going to be quite interesting.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to see a line item that says, bribe money for Russian oligarchs. Right. I don't think you're going to see, personal loan from Vladimir Putin on any of these. It's all going to be hidden and obfuscated and probably washed over to begin with. However, I think it'll add for a lot of great fodder for the pundits.
Yes.
To talk.
Yes. So it will, and I think what it will do, though, I think the IRS, because I don't think they've seen them yet. Oh, well, they have, but not in a criminal state, I guess.
Unredacted form.
Yeah, and so it may open up some people who haven't been paid by Donald, because he has a tendency, as it's been reported, of not to pay suppliers and people who he worked with. It may shed some light for those people as well.
Yeah, I think there's just too much that's been hidden for an event, for something like this, not to bring forward all kinds of light into the darkness.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of light, right, folks? It's not the darkness that has power, it's the light. And as soon as you open the window, as soon as you open the door and start to let the light flow in, well, then everything that was in the darkness is now visible, and we can see its authentic truth, and we can see what's really going on. And we're going to get to see that with the ex-president.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. The challenge is going to be for someone who's qualified to review 6 years of taxes will take a minute.
Yeah. Well, and there's going to be all kinds of people that are unqualified too.
Yeah.
That's what we want to watch out for, folks, is the people that are unqualified telling us what all this means versus waiting for the people that are qualified to tell us what all this means.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what time they were going to release, but I mean, it's 9:00 on the East Coast time right now, so they may be coming any minute now, so they'll be filling the news reel this morning with that.
By the time we get done, yes, there'll be more news for it to be reported. That happens. Yeah. That happens on our program a lot, man.
Yeah.
We get done, and then a half an hour later, somebody does something amazing, and it's like, well, we could have talked about that. Heck.
Yeah. And also want to give a shout out and condolences, if you will, to the great Pele. I mean, we just had the World Cup end the other day, and it's so funny how things happen. We were giving Messi all of this hoopla for winning one World Cup. Pele won 3 World Cups. He passed away into the greater yet to be yesterday. And so he was 82, I think he was. And so we send our heart out to him. When you look at the time that he came up as a black man in that sport and what he did, he will always be remembered, and there will never be anyone, I don't think, to surpass him.
No, he will be the legend by which all legends are measured.
Yeah.
And forever, and rightfully so. I didn't even know what soccer was, but I knew who Pele, but I knew the name Pele as a young kid. And after you learned the name Pele, then you started to learn what soccer was. And I think in a lot of ways, the inspiration that he brought to the game and to the planet is a big part of what drove youth soccer to find its way to America.
Yes.
And promoted the game of soccer his entire life. So it's a sad loss. Yeah.
And I found something out that I didn't know that I thought was pretty amazing. They were saying, oh yeah, Pele had the power to stop wars, and he actually did. He played a game in Nigeria where there was a war going on between two factions there, and for Pele to come, they did a 48-hour ceasefire for him to come and play.
Wow. I had not heard that one. Yeah,
that's crazy.
If you could, stopping war even for 2 days. So
yes,
intense stuff.
Yeah.
Best wishes, Pele. Kudos to you, to a life well lived, and trusting you're enjoying your life in the next great dimensions of living this.
Yep.
It's wild. See, we're here at the end of the year, and it feels like there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
We don't have any shootings to report. We don't have any violent protests to report. We don't have any now, it's not that there isn't stuff going on, and I'm sure there is plenty of sorrow. However, it really feels like there's a good vibe on during the holiday this year. There's a more peaceful vibe than it seems, and maybe that's due to the COVID stuff, and who knows, in my life, that's where it feels, and that's where I intend to keep it, is to try to capture this good vibe at the end of the year here, this sense of givingness and all the goodness that comes at this time of the year. And for me, it's there this year, palpable, and I want to try to take that into the new year as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be I got a couple of days here to work on my theme for next year. And right now, one thing that's ringing out in my mind is to be included is this idea of freedom. Freedom, and I have to redefine, narrow that in, but freedom for individuals to be authentic, freedom for people to speak the truth as they see it, and we know that's, and depending on what you're talking about, it could be moving. Because we're not talking about universal principles like light. I mean, that's that kind of thing. But the idea for people to have the freedom to express themselves, to be themselves, those are the kind of things that we need to bring forward, because there's some gifts that I think are not being shared with the world, and we need them now, as always. But I think we need them more than ever right now. Yeah.
It sounds a little bit on the corny side, but free to be in 23, right? They always sound a little corny, folks, no matter what they are. But we have this opportunity before us, and it's okay. So we're approaching the end of the third full year of living with COVID, and while some are saying it's time to put a mask back on for a little bit, and other factors, the flu, MSR, other things are coming forward as well this year. We're out of the scare zone and back into the okay, let's rebuild type of zone. When it comes to world health, let's say, and that promise comes with a big opportunity for all of us to let go of the little shit, let go of stuff like, I really could care less what Elon Musk is saying on Twitter anymore. And I don't know how we ended up here, but I'll tell you, I remember back when we were in ministerial school. Now that's going back a little ways now, but people would use Elon and hit some of what he said as inspiration. And I reflected the other night, and the same thing happened with Donald, with Trump. A lot of us used to look up to him, but what I'm starting to learn is most of what we were taught or being led to look up to was all a lie, was a sham. And And that's happening, and that's emerging. We're starting to see that more and more, not just with Donald, not just with Elon, not just with others, but with the influencer culture and the culture of it's all of the con culture, let's say, that I think we're starting to see through that as a species, as a human race. I think we're starting to see through all this false ideology, excuse me, not ideology, false ideology. And that's refreshing, because we can leave a lot of things behind from this year and from the last few years and use that energy to create something new in the coming year.
Yeah. And two things you bring to mind there. One, we're talking about COVID. They just had a plane that came in from China. Half of the plane had COVID.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Half of the plane. So COVID is still around. Yeah. And so after all the work that they did in China with lockdown, they could not get around the virus, number one. Then the other thing that you bring that I think is so important, one of the things that I intend to do is I intend to not be too much on social media, and spend time on my own thing, maybe doing some writing or getting some photographs published, or something to I'm free to be free, so I think I'm gonna try to get moving on that, right, and make my own stuff happen,
right,
and start looking at someone else happen and saying, wow, they got it going on. Well, you can get it going on too. Just get busy.
There you go. Yes. Enough of, they got it going on. Let's get it going on ourselves. And, as we talk about here on this show and on this network as a whole, every one of us has a unique set of gifts and skills and talents. Things that we need, that we have to bring to the planet. It's the reason we're here. And, okay, if you're a little... you don't understand, or you're a little this or a little of that, well, there's people out here to help. And whether it's a belief that you're not good enough, or a belief that there isn't enough money out there to do whatever it is you want to do, we can put all that aside and prove there is always enough.
Yeah.
That's
and the key thing there, I think, is that one thing that's happened this past year is this idea of getting help. Finding a counselor, finding a as we would say, a prayer partner, finding someone that you can release your burdens, if you will, release some emotion, exchange ideas about things that are not supportive of who and what you are or the world at large. And let's begin to do some healing. I mean, this pandemic has given us this opportunity to think about healing in many different ways. The whole idea of trauma came up, and how do we deal with trauma and past trauma, and how do we deal with healing relationships, and all this stuff that happened with the separation and stuff that's happened over the past few years in terms of the people. So we have an opportunity coming up in 23 to really make some things happen, and I implore everyone and myself to take full advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah. Good stuff coming. But it's not even good stuff coming. It's good stuff happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Or even good stuff being revealed. It's already here. We just been focusing on other stuff.
Right. Exactly. We've been focusing on the weirdness, on the trials, on who's diddling who and who's ripping off who. And what we can be focused upon is who's helping who, who's serving who's supporting who. And that means it's time for another shameless plug, because on Friday nights at 5 we do the good news around here, And the good news, every Friday night, 5 p.m., I or one of our team does a half an hour on the good news stories we've seen throughout the week that remind us of these things, that point out these things, that rather than filling our brain and preparing for our weekend with stories of what's going wrong and, oh, did you hear about this celebrity or that? We tell the stories of the real people, of the folks of the people that are saving lives because they happen to be in the right place at the right time. The people that are creating innovation in the world, not buying into the status quo. Join us Friday nights at 5 for the good news. I think you'll enjoy it.
And I wish I would have said this before you said the good news, but I'm gonna flip the coin because I got to talk about this. I don't know if anybody's been following New York politics, if you will, but if you haven't, go and look at the stuff with George Santos, a Republican guy who said he went to I think it was Columbia or NYU and Barnard College, and said he worked on Wall Street and that he had a Jewish Ukrainian background. His mother
died in 9/11.
All of it's a lie.
All of them are lies. Yes.
And he said he financed his own campaign with $750 million from some family company. So now he's under investigation. They're trying to put him under House ethics rules. He hasn't even been sworn in yet. This Republican representative. And they're like, I mean, when we have a society where you can just be an influencer and make up stuff, or you think how could he think that nobody's going to do fact checking after we've had all this fact checking stuff going on?
Right. And to me, that's the hubris of the white superior male, of the Republican Party, of that. Oh, nobody will care. If you made a mistake on the dates, or you gave yourself an A instead of a B plus, or that's one thing. But complete wholesale fabrication of your background, in my opinion, does not make you trustworthy enough to represent the people's voice in Congress. You might be trustworthy enough to represent the Republican voice or the corporate voice or something else, but you are not qualified to speak for the people.
Well, and think about, in my mind, it says the Republican leadership didn't vet this guy in any kind of way.
Right.
This stuff should have been, those things could have been vetted and found out right up front and said, dude, you know, as a representative of the Republican Party, you are not qualified to run if you stand on this. You're going to have to change and tell the truth.
Right.
He came up with this statement. Sorry. He said, in an interview, he said, well, I'm Catholic. And I didn't say I was a Jew. I said I was Jewish because I practice or adhere to some Jewish principles or something crazy. I'm like, dude, you have lost your mind.
That makes me lesbian-ish because I happen to enjoy some of the same activities that lesbians do. No, sorry, don't work, folks. Doesn't happen that way. I'm Jewish. I didn't say I was a Jew. I said I was Jewish.
But think about the world we live in, that a guy could get this far, campaign for however long. I mean, we know the campaign cycle is at least a year. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Get campaign, go to the booth, get people to vote, get voted in, and now you start checking his background.
Right. Oh, there's good in this too, because right, we need these kinds of stories to remind us that we are responsible. We each are responsible to make sure that what we say are facts are facts. That what we you could choose to believe he's a nice guy, and your belief will influence that, but you can't choose to believe that he actually went to a college and got a degree. Hell, I went to a lot of colleges in Vermont in the late 80s. I didn't get a degree. I didn't pay any of them to be there, and I didn't get a degree from any of them. I just hung out there. I partied there. So could I say, oh, yeah, when I went to college back in Vermont, yeah, but it's not authentic. It's not real. And it's not aligned with the world we're creating, because the world we're creating is based on a world of truth and trust.
Yep.
And that's the point. How can anybody in that, how can any of us trust this guy at this point? When one after another, he claimed that 9/11 killed his mother 5 years later in 2016. 15 years later so how did 9/11, and he's trying to make some cockamamie story that it contributed to the decline of her life for 15 years.
Yeah. And I mean, just to think that he would, dishonor, in my opinion, the people who actually did die or lose someone in 9/11 by coming up with some cockamamie story about whatever.
Yeah.
Is just ludicrous.
Oh. Dear Linda says, sadly, we as a society have come to accept that politicians often, quote, distort the truth. Yes, we have come to accept it. And Linda, I believe that's what we're asking for here, is to no longer accept that. to let it be known it's not acceptable. And while I don't vote in the great state of New York, I do happen to have their senators' phone numbers on a list somewhere here in my, so I can make a phone call and say, I don't vote in the great state of New York. And I think it is horrendous that the state of New York would continue to allow this man to represent them.
Yeah. 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 And that, I mean, I think, as we begin to step into 2023, we have to hold the media accountable. We have to hold the politicians accountable, or we have to hold the public servants accountable. Mm-hmm. And we're not saying that you got to be perfect, because we know life is an evolutionary, expanding thing, and we sometimes get out of sort. But you got to own that. You got to make amends for that, and you can't try to distort it.
Right.
Because in the long run, it's going to not serve us to help people. How often is it helpful for someone who's had a mishap, if you will, however we want to term it, to come forward and say, hey, this was what's going on. I had this thing or that thing, but I was able to overcome it through friends and prayer and meditation and all these principles and practices that we talk about here in New Thought to help you advance to the next level.
Right. Yeah. Or you can lie and cheat and steal your way. And unfortunately, what we've proven is you can become president by doing that.
Yeah.
But again, it comes with consequences. We're going to see. It's going to be very interesting, I think, to watch and witness, because all those pictures of Donald in an orange jumpsuit, every day we're getting closer to that reality. And if the man is found guilty, then he deserves that. And I think that's what we're going to, and it's going to be interesting. We're going to be able to point to, here is where the con started and here is where it ended. And this is what happens when this is your brain on drugs, folks. This is your life as a con man, is eventually you get caught and sent up.
And I would dare to say, if Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, had any of this type of activity going on in his background and in his presidency while he was in office, he would already be in jail.
Yeah.
I can say that with confidence.
Yes, because a lot of people tried to manufacture that.
Yes.
They tried to manufacture anything they could. And I still remember that the biggest scandal for many of the Obama presidency was the day he wore those tan slacks.
Yes.
right? Now, again, folks, he did things as a president that some of us don't agree with. He did things that could be considered questionable as the leader of, quote, the free world. But that's nothing any president hasn't ever had to deal with. They tried people tried as hard as they could to dig up dirt on Obama for 4 straight years. And the most they came up with was tan slacks. Hell, with Trump, all you got to do is turn around and he incriminates himself somehow. There's so much evidence of the shit this guy has said that we're entering that next phase. I don't know how we ended up on this story today at the end of the show, but we did. We're entering that next phase where we're going to see justice for the misuse of the law. And let's be real clear. That's what Donald Trump did. He misused this universal law of co-creation. We all have access to it. We teach you about it. All of our shows use it. This entire ministry is built upon that. And he misused that sacred power of creation. And we are going to get to witness the effect from those causative behaviors. He set loose into the universe a power that he doesn't know how to control. And it's going to come. And it's right now we're witnessing the justice of it, the payback of it.
Yeah. And you know what that should at least point a finger at in the new year is that, as we were saying earlier, we have to be authentic. We have to bring our gifts to the world, and that means we have to turn within. We have to stop focusing a whole lot on what someone else is doing and trying to imitate them. There's only one you. There's only one me. There's only one whoever you're looking at trying to emulate. Now, if they inspire you, that's one thing to be yourself, but you don't need to emulate them.
Right.
And so I think as we move into 2023 and we continue this program of talking about tough subjects or subjects that people sometimes shy away from that need to be heard, let's do that in every place we can now.
Yeah, exactly. Let's be willing and courageous to have crucial conversations, regardless of their content, regardless of who that conversation is with, and regardless of its national or even international impact.
Yeah, we have to get to a point, I think, where when we have these subjects, we're not doing it to tear anybody down per se. We're doing it to build up a community and an environment where we allow life to be prime again. We talk about that often. Life is prime, not social media, not some of this other stuff that's going on. The thing that's prime on this planet is life. And if we allow life itself to be degraded or to be overlooked or to be manufactured in some kind of way that's not authentic, we will suffer.
Right. Yes. I'm reminded of Plato and that often misquoted line, which I will now misquote as well. But our ignorance or malice towards politics opens us to being ruled by lesser men, by lesser women, by lesser individuals. And we were talking before the show that the family and we went to see Wakanda Forever yesterday. And I looked at it as what a great representation of strong female and just happen to be Black as well leadership. And the compassion, but also the fortitude that the female leaders of that society chose to show in the face of adversity and attack and aggression and everything else that movie's got wrapped up into it. I thought it was a great reminder that it's not just the men. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the bloodline. And it's not just, oh, well, I've been doing this for 60 years now. It has to be about the desire to serve the people. Yeah. It has to be about how are we serving the folks. Whether it's in our spiritual lives or our political lives or just getting some food on the table. Our work as individuals, I believe, is to serve our fellow humans. And I shall step down off my soapbox. No, I won't. I'm going to keep preaching and pushing this stuff week after week after week. And we're going to be back next week with more. And we're going to do it the week after that. And if you have a story you'd like us to talk about, or if you'd like to be a guest on this program, please send us an email, ministertalk@ntmedia.org. We'll make sure that we get that. And if you've got a topic you want us to talk about, we're happy to. Again, or if you'd like to be a special guest on the show, we would love to see you as a special guest on this show. We're right now scheduling for next year, so you can join us on a Friday morning sometime. Z, we're running right up against that time frame we set for ourselves, so I think it's time we share some final thoughts for the day. Let folks get back into their holiday weekend.
No doubt, and I think for me, it's a very simple one. In 23. I'm free to be me, and that means I am going to focus on myself as a part, not as an individual, but as part of a community that needs me to show up.
Yeah. Well, then I'm going to tag on that and say, if you're feeling like you're ready to be you, to be free to be you, well, come be you right here on the New Thought Media Network. Come be a part of what we're doing. Come be a part of who we are and how we're showing up in the world. And more importantly, how we're sharing this message with the world. I'm Rev Briz on behalf of my co-host here, Rev Z, and everyone here at New Thought Media Network. Thank you for being a part of the family. Thank you for contributing during 2022. And we look forward to seeing you again in 2023. We got full programming this weekend. However, come Sunday, it's the new year. Plan to join us, CSL Denver, CSL Midtown, and many others on Sunday. Sharing their love and their broadcast and their special January 1st programming with us as well. Remember also tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., Dr. Tracy Brown is with us for our Saturday morning Science of Mind and Conversation series. And tomorrow she will be tying Kwanzaa into and explaining Kwanzaa through the lens of the Science of Mind philosophy. So it should be a great, great program, one you really don't want to miss. That's tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Mountain Time. We're out of here for now. Until next time, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.